No. I got off the top of my head. I got to think about exactly. Do me a favor. Ask Sorry when we're going back to. I can't remember. See if he knows.
And also,
okay, I'll get the answer.
And also, are the problems with the commission here in California, how is that going to affect you?
It hasn't affected us at all, no. And not that I'm aware of. If there was a problem, I'd know about it. There hasn't been.
Yeah, you talk about this main event. Obviously, you were kind of frustrated with Shogun when he wouldn't take the Teixeira fight, but then you end up going to.
Well, it's not that I was frustrated. If you look at Shogun, like I said, I mean, we've been saying, and it's true, this guy's one of the greatest fighters of the last decade. I mean, if you look at the guys that he's not only beat but annihilated. He just came off a fight with he just came off knee surgery, fights John Jones, then goes right into a war with Dan Henderson. And when you have a guy like Shogun and you're going out, you know how it is with me. You don't say no to fights. This is the UFC, man. Everybody here is tough. You don't say no to fights. And but I respect Shogun, and he's the guy you give a pass to. So I wasn't aggravated with him, but listen, I'm going to be honest. People say, well, why are you doing this fight? Well, this is the fight we tried to make and he didn't want it. So everybody knows if you turn down a fight or you do whatever's said behind the scenes, I'm going to tell you the truth and what happened.
Diaz actually said that he wouldn't want to fight Glover either.
I'm sure nobody's going to be too excited about it, but we'll see how it goes with Rampage. Interesting fight. Both, really good chins and both hit hard.
What does that mean for Glover? I mean, with nobody wanting to fight him, does that mean he kind of gets a fast track sort of to a #1 contender type of fights? These guys are kind of avoiding him.
People are going to have to fight him. You know what I mean? It's you can use the excuse, listen, nobody knows who he is, this and that. After the Rampage fight, if he beats Rampage, it's going to be tough to say that.
How much input are you going to have, with the fans on Saturday night? Obviously, the one that wins the most impressively is the one that gets the title shot out of this. I mean, is that going to be you solely making that call, or are you going to be on Twitter? What do you guys think?
No, I mean, hopefully it's so blatantly obvious that it's not even, or it's a tough choice. That would be the best case scenario. It's tough to pick.
Is there any thought that the winner would fight Alexander Gustafsson, since he is also a top contender in the light heavyweight division?
That the winner would?
Yeah.
No, the winner's getting a title
shot. For sure.
Yeah.
They both said that they're interested in coaching Tuck Brazil, and both said that they're interested in the trilogy fight to decide who is the #1 contender fight. So you still think, no matter what, one of these guys is going to face Jones instead?
Yeah, one of them fight Jones.
What about Gustafsson? His name is being mentioned a lot this week as, hey, why isn't that guy in the mix?
I like it, good.
Yeah, do you have anything lined up for him yet, and why is he not in consideration?
Yeah, I think he needs a big fight now. He fought the Silva fight, great fight. Now he needs a fight with one of these top guys.
Is there anything for him yet, or are you still kind of waiting to see it shake out?
Not even thinking about that right now.
Now somebody like Brandon Vera, obviously you have had your problems with him in the past. You've got the negotiation problems.
No, that's not true. There was never any negotiation problems with Brandon Vera. What happened was him and his management had a falling out, and it turned into a huge lawsuit that put him on the sidelines for a long time. That never had anything to do with the UFC.
That was kind of the narrative that everybody thought, was that it was a money thing.
No, not even close. We never had any beef with Brandon Vera. When Brandon, I tried to get him on the Ultimate Fighter, and he was like, yeah, fuck that, I'm not doing that show. I'm going to be the light heavyweight champion, and I'm going to move up to the heavyweight. I'm ready to fight now. I don't want to do that show.
Is that the original Ultimate Fighter?
No, I don't remember what season it was, but yeah, and then he got into a huge beef with his management, and it turned into a huge lawsuit. Had nothing to do with me in the UFC.
Why did his career, tank so much? I mean, that night in 2006, it looked like he was the next guy.
And it's weird. It's like as soon as he got into that huge management lawsuit, it's like it was very weird how that whole thing went down.
Big ego.
When he finally came back, he wasn't the same.
He had a big ego though too, right?
Oh,
An overconfident, cocky kid.
Yeah, I don't think he was overconfident. He was talented. Listen, this is a sport that you better be fucking confident. You better be, call it cocky if you want to, but I don't know how good I am. I think I'm okay. We'll see how I do on Saturday. I mean, if you were hearing that kind of shit, you might want to go out and get another job. You might not want to be fighting here.
One of the big stories this week is Ed Soros and Anderson's management basically said we have no interest in fighting Chris Weidman. I don't think he's a big enough name. He doesn't really pay his dues in the UFC. Is it a fight that you think Chris needs more seasoning, or do you think that he's ready for Anderson Silva?
Well, I think that that's the same stuff they said about Chael Sonnen too. You know what I mean? They weren't going to do that fight either. This is what they do every time a fight's over. They start talking about who they won't fight and who they might fight. Nick Diaz makes no sense, okay? I know that sounds fun. Yeah, throw Nick Diaz in there. If you really look at the thing, Nick Diaz just lost the Condit, you know what I mean, at 170, so that gives him the opportunity to move up to 85 and fight the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. In what fucking universe does that make sense?
But you said fans do get excited about it, and you want to put the fights that fans want to see. Is there so I guess there's a limit on that?
George St. Pierre and Anderson Silva are both considered, and most people argue, you know. I think that I think finally, especially with the inactivity from GSP, that people now consider Anderson Silva the pound for pound. But there was an argument there for a long time. And if GSP hadn't been this inactive, maybe the debate would still be there. But he's definitely 2 or 3 in the world, depending on who you ask. And if you were really going to make a fight like that, it would make more sense with George St. Pierre than it would with Diaz.
So if he gets by Condit, is that something, I mean, how serious are we? Is this just theoretical talking, or are we serious
It's
about
always
this?
theoretical. You don't know what's going to happen. We'll see what happens in the future here, and maybe that is the fight we're going to make. I can tell you this, not theoretically, Diaz Anderson is not going to happen. That's just ridiculous.
You look at Anderson Silva, he may have limited time left on his career. Do you look from a promoter standpoint, you just want to see him in those fun super fights, like maybe Anderson Silva versus JDS? I'd love to see that as a fan. Or John Jones.
JDS?
Yeah, why not have him go up to heavyweight?
I don't think he's got the frame for heavyweight. I mean, the guy makes 85 easily. 205? He'll fight at 205, but he chooses not to. He doesn't like to fight at 205 for some reason. He doesn't want to do it.
Do you think the fans would rather see GSP and Anderson or John Jones and Anderson? It seems like more people want John Jones.
I think they want both. I think they'd love to have both.
Why do they say they won't fight each other? Do you know what the genesis of that is? Why they both say they don't want to fight each other?
Jude, how many times have I been sitting here in front of you guys with a bunch of guys that said they won't fight each other? You're in the fucking fight business. You're gonna fight.
You think you'll stop, you will not make a fight for Anderson until GSP's fight is done, just so you can have the opportunity to have those 2 guys get together?
Maybe.
That's what you're tempted to do?
Maybe. That is, no, that's what we're thinking, yeah.
Okay.
But anything could happen, you know what I mean? He could end up fighting, he could not fight, you know, we'll see what happens. But it's, like you said, it's all theoretical right now. People have to win first. GSP's got to come out and beat Condit. And, you know, because people love Diaz so much, you know, or love to hate Diaz so much, whatever it is, whatever side they're on. You know, Carlos Condit won that fight. And Carlos Condit is no pushover. He's a tough guy. It's going to be a tough fight for George, especially coming off the injury, inactivity, et cetera, et cetera.
Dana, Cesar Gracie said he's meeting with you next week.
True.
Okay, about what?
About Nate Diaz.
Nate Diaz?
Yes. Cesar and I are meeting about Nate Diaz.
What about Nate Diaz?
We're re-signing him.
Okay. He also mentioned that he's going to try to convince you to let Nick fight overseas. Are you open?
He would have a better chance of convincing me, I don't know, to get hair plugs.
Is Nate Diaz still, I guess part of this negotiation or discussion next week will be that he'll fight the winner of next week's title fight? Is that still the plan?
What's that?
Next week, Frankie Edgar, Ben Henderson.
Yep.
Nate Diaz still the guy who's going to fight. Is that part of the...
Yep.
Okay.
So where you know, you have the 4 guys, they're all fighting basically for a title shot. Where does Rashad Evans fall in this entire thing?
Rashad? Yeah, I don't know. I personally haven't talked to Rashad. You know, I've heard the talks of him wanting to go to 85 or possibly going to 85. So I don't know. If he did, he'd have to fight somebody. Maybe you do Rashad versus Weidman, and the winner of that gets a shot. You know what I mean? Just came off the top of my head. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying.
When would you like to see Anderson back in action?
I'd love him to fight before the end of the year, but he wants to wait. He wants to fight after the first of the year.
The guy kind of ragging on Hector Lombard earlier. You kind of gave him a free pass, it seems like, the other day. Have you talked to Hector at all, or since that fight?
I haven't talked to him, no. I haven't talked to him at all. Who did I give a free pass to?
Well, in Canada, it seemed like you didn't really dog on him as much as maybe you could have, as much as the fans kind of jumped on him.
But you know what? He came in. This happens all the time. When guys are in other organizations, they get ranked way up here, and this guy, you know, and it's the same story when guys first come into the UFC. You know, whatever it is, if it's the jitters or the freeze or, you know, he didn't fight like he had fought. But this, you're fighting at a whole different level here, you know. And I think to rag on him would discredit Bosch. I mean, Bosch went in there and fought his ass off. The guy broke his foot, and you know. The fight wasn't the exciting fight we thought it was going to be, but you know, both those guys came out banged up. I think after the fight, if you saw my video blog, Lombard thought he had a broken nose, but he had like a fractured sternum. You know what I mean? So those guys were banging. You know, they were hitting hard when they were hitting, but yeah, I'm not going to smash Lombard. It's happened to everybody that's coming to the UFC.
What do you think about Rocco talking about possibly fighting one of the UFC guys, maybe a Tim Boach? Since you guys made it possible for Frank Mir to go into this fight.
I mean, anything's possible. We're not thinking about that, but I wouldn't say no to anything.
Was that rematch on Fox, the last show this year?
Which one?
Junior Kane 2.
No, that ain't happening.
Is it true that that was at least brought up?
By who? Fox?
Yeah.
No, they never asked us for that fight.
You talked about taking the fight to Mexico. There's so many talk.
Yeah, we want to go there so bad, but it just hasn't worked out. You've been hearing me talk about that forever. And there's been so many times with so many places that we're really close to doing. We're right there, and it just falls apart. It didn't happen.
It's not close yet.
What's that?
It's not close yet right now.
No.
So next week you have the lightweight title and becoming Matt Cerrone and Melvin Lombard.
I'm excited for that fight.
Now, obviously, if Edgar beats Henderson, would you do a trilogy with them, or is it let's get the lightweight title moving again?
We'd have to get it moving again. It's the unfortunate position that Ben is in. You know what I mean? Ben stepped up and takes the rematch with Frankie, which, you know, I didn't want it to happen, but Frankie came to me a million times. This guy's always stepped up and always been there for us, you know, and I felt obligated to return the favor. So Ben accepted, and of course now, if Ben loses in that fight, he gets back in line, you know what I mean? So definitely some pressure on Henderson for that fight.
So where does Donald and Melvin sit in some parts?
You know, I'm excited for that fight. I love that fight. I love watching both of those guys fight, and it should be explosive. You know, I don't see that one going the distance, but who knows?
Can you break down that fight?
You know what, man? They're, like I said, they're both explosive. You know, Melvin Guillard can knock it. Melvin Guillard is one of these guys that should have been a champion already, you know? He's nutty in the head. Over the last several years, he's been with good camps that have, you know, settled him down personally, got his ass in the gym, got him working on things he needs to, but I think that kid has had and still has so much potential. He can knock you out, you can go to the ground, you can wrestle, he gets submitted, you know. He's got submission defense. He's a submission fighter, but I don't know. I'd love to see that fight stand up. I'd love to see those guys stand up and bang it out, but who knows?
And also the main event as well.
Huh? I think the main event is going to be